Welcome back to Moody Kids Momcast. I'm your host, Chris, and I have a very special guest, Sara, with us today. And this episode is our back to school special, and I'm so excited to be talking to you. Um, I'm a little nervous.
Don't be nervous.
I'm a little bit nervous, I have to admit. Um, but yeah, I have known you now for a very long time. I can't
Yeah.
even
I think it's
count.
pre-babies,
Yes,
right?
pre-children. So this
Yep.
has to be the funny story. I was serving with you
Mm-hmm.
in children's church, my first children's church service, and I got really sick, and I thought it was food poisoning,
Oh, and you were pregnant.
and I was pregnant.
Oh.
You remember I blamed Krispy Kreme donuts. I was like, the
Yes.
donuts you gave us have me throwing up. I
Yes.
gotta go home. And you were like, the donuts? And I'm like,
Donuts
yeah.
never make me sick, but okay.
I'm like, yes, the donuts. I never, ever, ever expected to be pregnant. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And then a whole 9 months later, being a mom.
Yeah. It's a transition.
What, Sarah?
Yeah.
That girl at that service in children ministry had no idea
Yeah.
the task she signed up to do.
Yep.
That girl need a hug. I need a hug.
That girl is doing a fabulous job.
Thank you,
Mhm.
because it's a struggle, daily, constantly.
I think life is a struggle sometimes.
Yeah, but
and-
motherhood is like
yeah.
different. Anyways, I digress. But yes, we have known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And you have been working with children for a long time.
Yes. I pretty much my entire professional career
Yeah.
in some form or fashion, which is very almost 30 years.
Wow. So did you? Where did you start off in?
I started off in education.
Okay.
So I started off teaching. My first year, hated it, cried every single day, quit, moved to Ireland.
What?
Quit, moved to Ireland for 2 years. When I came back, I went into social work, and I
Okay.
worked in the juvenile justice system and with children and families for about 15 years
Okay.
in multiple capacities.
I was gonna say.
And then right around maybe year 14 or 15, I came back into the education system and started teaching again.
How did you pivot back? Like, what made you say, I'm going back?
You know, honestly, I would watch. I when I stopped teaching, it was because I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. And I mean, looking back, I was 22. I didn't know what I was doing. I had just graduated college, but I felt inadequate every day. And I wasn't confident in who I was and what I was doing, which is what sent me off to Ireland and then and then into social work. I pivoted back so when I pivoted back, I was living in Washington, D.C., and I started teaching in the D.C. public school system.
Okay.
And at that point, I felt highly qualified. I was not. But I felt highly qualified because I had been working with at-risk youth and had just a tremendous amount of training and invested in me over the course of those 15 years. And I felt like I understood, and I did. I understood the challenges that population that I was about to serve was really facing. And so I went back into teaching, and that was probably the hardest year I've
Transition.
ever had. Yeah. It was a huge transition. Looking back, I would do it all over again. Even though it was such a hard year, I learned so much about myself.
Yeah.
So much about teaching and connecting with children in a classroom setting. And then I moved out here and have been teaching out here. Much different, much easier than DC public schools.
Okay.
I love
I
it.
don't know. That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Is it good? Is it easier in a good way for
Yes.
students?
Yeah. No. It's easier.
Okay.
It's easier in a good way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous. Should I
Yeah.
move to DC?
No. It's in a good way.
But that's good. That's dope. That's a lot of time
A lot of time spent. Yeah.
with children.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Kids are my heart and my passion. I really, my niche kind of population is our fourth graders. third, fourth, fifth grade age.
Okay.
Is my absolute favorite.
Is that where you've been most of your career?
Yeah,
Okay.
for my teaching career
Yeah.
has been mostly fourth grade, but I think third and fifth, it's not too far off. For me, that age of 8, 9, and 10, which is kind of the range on the low end and the high end of fourth graders, there's something that happens in their personalities where they start to develop a sense of who they are outside of their parents, and not in a bad way.
Yeah.
But they start to really have their own likes and dislikes. I call them pieces of popcorn, like they're little popcorn kernels that just start to pop.
Yeah.
They develop their own sense of humor. It's an amazing transition to watch. They develop a sense of autonomy, a sense of independence, their interpersonal skills with their friends within the classroom. It's amazing to be a part of. And at the same time, they are still a little bit afraid of their teacher, most of them. They usually like their teacher, and they want their teacher to like them, which makes classroom management so much easier.
Got you.
So it's not necessarily a fight to get their attention, to get them engaged in learning. It's just a lot of fun.
For me, the part of school is like the beginning. I love first day of school, first week of school, first month of school, because all the kids are really like excited and happy and looking fresh and clean and sharp. It's just such an exciting time, especially social media. I love seeing all the first day of school pictures. But what do you think is some things that parents can do to get their kids ready for the school year?
I think one of the most important things is getting them, like you said, back on a schedule. Starting a regular bedtime, especially a lot of families have kind of this open-ended bedtime in the summer, or it may even just be that it's a little bit later, but whatever that school bedtime is going to be, institute that about 2 weeks before school starts.
So you think 2 weeks?
I would say 2 weeks. I mean, we're close now, especially some of us are starting in a week. Some a week and a half, but as soon as you can. Some have already started. That's crazy.
So crazy.
No,
to
thank
me.
you.
I'm like,
I love teaching, but I love my whole summer break.
The whole
thing. Yes.
I seen some of the pictures start to pop up, and I'm like, you have to be kidding me.
I saw a little boy at Starbucks this morning taking his first day of school picture, and I was like, he is so cute. And I love my students, but I'm so glad they're still home right now.
Hello.
So
like,
glad.
Give me a little longer.
But I would say to help them get into a schedule and a routine, institute that back, whatever bedtime is going to be during the school year, institute that getting up at whatever that school time is going to be. And then maybe necessarily back to school, but I think it's just in general, is limiting that screen time. And I'm not saying never, and I'm not saying only 30 minutes a day. I'm not that extreme, but limiting that screen time and allowing them to be bored sometimes. They like being bored it's disappeared because they have constant engagement. And so that place of just sitting and thinking, and I'm not saying sit them in a chair and make them think, but allow them to use their creativity, creative play dates where they're playing not just with kids their age, but they're playing with kids who are a little bit older and kids who are a little bit younger, because all of that helps with the emotional regulation that they need, especially the younger kids. Those, COVID babies who are starting kindergarten and first grade now, who have really, for the first couple of years of their lives, they were in the house with their family. And so being around other people, playing with other kids, being involved in that creative play helps with that social emotional regulation. If you think about like playing a video game, you die, darn it, I'm just going to start right over again. And so allowing for that human interaction and those times of boredom can really take them far in the classroom.
Sarah.
Yeah.
It's not just for the kids, though.
It's for all of us.
Man. But I seen an Instagram post where this lady was on the news, and she was talking about a lot of misdiagnoses when it comes to boys, and how the school system isn't really set up for boys to succeed. What are your thoughts about that?
I actually saw that same, I think I saw the same one that you're talking about, because she was talking specifically about boys between the ages of 3 and 6, which honestly made me pause and go, well, wait, I mean, I work with 9 and 10-year-olds. I know what to expect from them. What should I expect from a younger child? So I Googled it. And I was like, how long should a child between the ages of 3 and 6 be
Okay.
able to sit still.
Yeah.
And not that we want them sitting like statues, but how long should they be able to sit still? And it's 2 minutes per year of life. So when you have that 6-year-old, I might say 2 to 3 minutes, because boys and
Gotcha.
girls can be very different.
Yes.
But if you think about it, then that 6-year-old can be expected to sit and learn for, in that non-kinesthetic learning environment, which is, just that sitting still or sitting at a table, for about 12 minutes.
Wow.
And that is not a long time.
No.
If you add to it that boys are, I'm trying to remember the term, I think it's visuospatial. Boys are visuospatial learners, which means they have pictures in their minds. So that's why they're good with Legos, because they're able to put them together, and their brains work the way Legos work, the way pictures work.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so much of learning can be conversational.
Yeah.
In speech. Schools come a long way since then, and if you look at like the worksheets that they're doing, there are a lot of pictures on them at that age to help them make connections. But when you think about the classroom and everything going on in the classroom at once, whether you have a kid having a meltdown, you have people coming in and out for observations, kids leaving for special tutoring or interventions or whatever it is, everything going on in that learning environment, boys are not multitaskers. Girls are.
Boys are, when I say they're not multitaskers,
They are not multitaskers.
I cannot give my son a multi-step instruction.
Yep.
Instant frustration for me, because
one
it's
thing
like,
at a time.
Did you not hear what I said?
Yep.
Go wash your hands, flush the toilet, turn the lights off.
And all he heard was wash your hands, or flush the
the
toilet,
toilet,
or turn the light off, but not all three. And it's that step by step. Now you still have a baby in the house, so honestly, what I would do in the bathroom is I would put pictures, 1, 2, 3, and just have a little picture, and that he can even on the way out the door underneath of the light post when he gets this age, that way he can see it, and maybe help make that connection of let me do each of these things. It's just a side note.
That's a great idea.
Because a lot of times you are a boy mom, and they need those visual prompts.
Yes, maybe my husband does too.
Your husband probably does too.
He's gonna whoop me for all these.
It's okay.
All these shots I'm taking at him.
It is okay.
But that's true. They are not multitaskers, and girls are really better at it than guys.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why, but it is.
Yeah.
I see it more often than not.
So when I think about a misdiagnosis, as a teacher, I would prefer a misdiagnosis to an undiagnosis. Because when you think about, there are so many stereotypes around a diagnosis, and a lot of parents shy away from that, from, when the school recommends, hey, I think we need to have a meeting. I think maybe we should consider, based on our data, we should consider moving forward with some tests. For a lot of parents, that's off-putting, because they're afraid that it's going to put a label on their child. They'll be labeled with whatever the diagnosis is, ADD, ADHD, on the spectrum, ODD. Now, nobody really wants that ODD diagnosis, because that's oppositional defiant disorder, and that just means they will not follow directions, and they will do the exact opposite of what you said. So nobody really wants that one. But even
I think my youngest might have it. My 2-year-old for sure suffers from
all 2-year-olds. No,
I'm like,
all
did
2-year-olds
you not
are right
hear
there.
what I said?
Yep.
I said, come here. And you ran faster the other way.
Yep.
For sure, he suffers from that.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's where I'm like, all 2-year-olds are right. All 2-year-olds have all of those symptoms, but it's age appropriate.
For sure.
It's completely age appropriate. But when I consider what a diagnosis is, I think a diagnosis is a roadmap.
Yes,
and
I agree.
When we're trying to get somewhere, if I'm going to get in a car and I'm going to drive, I'm going to use a different map than I would if I'm going to hike there. I'm going to use a different map than I would. I'm not even going to use a map if I were to get on a plane. But if I'm, trying to calculate the distance from here to there, how long is this flight going to take? I'm going to pull up a different type of map to, look at that plane going across the United States with, however many hours it's going to take. That's all a diagnosis is a map. We have a location we want to get to. There are so many routes to get there, and the diagnosis lets us know which route we need to take. How do I need to get there? If they're ADD, that means they're struggling to focus, to maintain attention. They don't necessarily have that hyperactivity, but they're off in their head somewhere. I'm going to use certain strategies to teach that child to keep them engaged. If they are ADHD, they have that hyperactivity. I'm going to use a different strategy for them. So what the diagnosis does for me as a teacher is it lets me know how to get the child from A to B, really how to help them access the curriculum, how to help them learn and become the best student they can be.
I agree. I think when you first said that you rather a misdiagnosis than an undiagnosis, I never looked at it that way. I always thought, oh, these people are out here misdiagnosing people and just kind of like one-sided about it.
Yeah.
But a misdiagnosis can also help find
figure out what's really wrong.
Yeah.
And wrong is the wrong word. I take that back. Find out what's really needed.
Yes.
What's really happening.
Yeah.
I had a little boy that I worked with, I want to say my second year here. And we went through the whole process with him, the whole evaluation process. And when it came down to it at the end, and he was being, I'm going to air quote this, diagnosed, I suddenly started panicking. I was like, what if I got it wrong? What if, I know that everything I saw all year, I know because it was the end of the school year, I know everything that I did all year, but what if I'm not seeing things from the right perspective? And I was talking to our special ed coordinator at the time, and she could see the panic on my face. And she was like, none of this is written in stone. It's not a tattoo on his arm. It is a piece of paper in a building right now that we're going to use to make sure he gets what he needs next school year. Now, a lot of maturity will happen over the summer. And if he comes back and we see he doesn't need it, it's not that this gets shredded, but it's put in a file somewhere, and everybody talks about your permanent record. Nobody looks at your 4th grade report card unless you're changing schools and going to 5th grade.
Agreed.
That's when it's looked at. And for me as a teacher, that took a weight off. And I've been able to share that with parents too, as I'm sitting and talking and saying, hey, I think we need to move forward with an evaluation for your child. And I've seen the fear, I've seen the sadness, I've seen, because it's usually moms that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
I've seen the mom guilt immediately. What did I do wrong? What didn't I give him, or what didn't I give her? And I've been able to really quell it with those conversations I had with that one special ed coordinator. It's nothing that you've done wrong as a parent. You have loved your child unconditionally. Everyone is different. Everybody learns differently. That, the way that kids learn, they all learn differently. One isn't better, one isn't worse. One's not right, one's not wrong. They're just different ability levels, and that's okay.
I agree. For moms that's dealing with kids with behavioral issues, what is your advice for them? What's the first steps that they should do?
The most important piece is always that open communication with the teacher, and trying to really form that partnership that we're working together in the best interest of the child. When I'm meeting with a parent and a child is struggling with a behavioral issue, I start with asking them if they've ever seen this at home or if this has happened in previous school years, and how they've dealt with it. How, when you have behavioral conflict at home, how do you handle it? How does he respond? What does he respond best to? And kind of go, like, as a teacher, I go from there. And as a parent, I think being able to come in with that information as well, and saying, if it's a behavior that you're not seeing at home, saying that, like, I'm not seeing that at home, but I would love to talk with my child and find out more. I think a lot of times the behavioral issues, behavior is a language. They're communicating something. What is it that they're communicating? Maybe they're frustrated and they're acting out in math every day because maybe they're struggling with a concept, or they're acting out in reading every day. Maybe it's right after recess and they're having conflict on the playground. But it's finding out that why. So if a child is struggling behaviorally, I would find out from the teacher, is it all day every day, or is it at specific times? Ask the teacher, what have you tried? And even coming maybe with some suggestions too as a parent. A lot of times I've had parents just go, and that's okay too, because I have resources and things I can pull from and dialogue with, and like, well, I would like to try these things. Let's see if this works. One of the things that has always worked really well, not always, but 9 times out of 10 has worked really well, is when we've had that, if it's extreme behavior on a regular basis, when we've had that homeschool partnership where, maybe we have a sticker chart that is in that homework folder, and if they're getting a certain amount of stickers during the day, there's that reward at home. Because, and it's dependent on the child's age, but as a teacher, sometimes we're limited in what we can do and what we can't do, where if you can partner with the parent on that and offer a reward system at home, sometimes that can help as well. I think when your child is struggling behaviorally, it really does come down to that why.
Yeah, I feel like the education system, you guys give a lot, and you guys are really undervalued. And I think that you guys deserve your flowers.
Thank you.
You're very
I do.
welcome.
There was a minute in 2020 where we were very valued.
Oh,
When all those kids went home
facts.
in 2020
Facts.
and most of them didn't come back to school until 2021.
Yeah.
Teachers were the greatest thing on the planet at that point. We've since kind of, depending on where you are, depending on where you are and
like,
you know
hey,
what school
they're home
that
with
you're
us.
in. Yeah, yeah.
Well, Miss Sara, I would like to thank you for coming on and giving your insight and point of view from a teacher's perspective. I think it was a lot of information shared here, a lot of gems that I am going to benefit from. So that's nice. But yeah, it was fun, and I'm glad you came on.
It was fun. Yeah, and if you ever have any questions or concerns, shoot me a text, give me a call.
That's it on this episode of Moody Kids Momcast. On the next episode, we do have a firefighter who also has a nonprofit car seat installation business who's going to give us some safety tips. So stay tuned.